Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Andrea Little Mason, also known as Dr. Doula, and this is Birth Her Story. This is another Birth Her Story video blog, and today I am here with DeLynn Hudson. She is a longtime friend of mine. Oh my goodness. She has had so many diverse birth experiences that I was like, people just have to hear about them and to hear her thoughts about them. I am fortunate enough, my husband and I are fortunate enough to be the godparents to her children. Dare we say how many children you have birthed, ma'am?
Yes, 10.
Say it again.
10, T-E-N, 10 children.
10 en español. Okay. Okay. So I am excited to hear about your birth stories, and I am excited for others to also be able to experience what you want to share. But first, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself to the people that are listening or watching. Who are you, Miss DeLynn Hudson?
Well, I am a mother of 10 children, married for 22 years, 23 years in August.
Yes.
And I've had 7 sons and 3 daughters.
Wow.
And they range from the ages of 28 to 6. So I will soon be having a new graduate come next Thursday. And so I'll have 4 adult children now.
Yes.
So it's exciting. I don't even know where to start other than the fact that over 20 years ago, I decided to walk away from my career.
Wow.
I worked for the state of Indiana, and I was an employment counselor, employment interviewer, got promoted to employment counselor. And I was pregnant with my second child, and I felt in my spirit that I wanted to be home with them. At that time, of course, I only had 2 children. So I had one in elementary, one in daycare. Then my husband and I conceived our 3rd child. And it was a question of, do I stay and work or do I come home? And my heart was always at home.
Wow.
My journey started when I resigned from my job and my career. And I wanted to be home with them, not knowing that I would also be homeschooling and not knowing that the future
would. Did we say homeschool?
Yes, I did. So the homeschooling became a part of the journey as well, which was 15 years of that ended in 2015 of when I moved from Gary, Indiana to Texas. So I've been homeschooling for 14 years, and it's another whole part of that story. But to go back to the birthing the children, I didn't anticipate when I got married that I would be having 10 children. But my husband and I were very adamant and serious about if there was a plan that the Most High had for us, we wanted to fulfill that plan. And we felt in our hearts that no more contraception. Most people thought I was crazy. When the baby started coming, nobody really knew what we were talking about in our own private time. And as soon as we made that decision, I would say children were birthed at least once every 1.5 to 2 years from that point.
So let me ask you this. Because, well, I will say this, that DeLynn and I kind of met when we were still both in the homeschooling journey. So I think we met 2006. I stopped in 2013, I think, and you were 2015, a couple of years after me. So that whole homeschooling thing is a whole other thing. And that was before it was all popular. Yes. I know I started in 97 or 96, 7 or 8 or something like that. And being in that era, now they have all these special things, whatever. But in the early 2000s, it was still kind of, you had to kind of, you had to kind of create.
Up.
Oh,
don't want to lose power.
Exactly. Okay. You had to kind of feel your way. So it was really great having her, and we just kind of encouraged each other in our homeschooling journeys. When you all said no contraception, was that also no type of like rhythm method that people use? Were you just like, we're just gonna go, we're gonna
We just went with the flow.
we married, we whatever?
We went with the flow. We did. I thought about the natural method, thought about going to get classes. I had a friend who was using the natural rhythm method. I think that's the name of it.
Yeah, I think they call it like the rhythm method. It's several names, but yeah.
It was, but I never, she was encouraging me to get into that, but I just didn't. So as I said, I guess I was very fertile because the babies kept coming. But my children were born, the first set of children, I was the first set, but my number 1 through number 4 were born at the hospital with a male doctor.
Okay.
My experiences were the traditional way with that. Laying on your back in stirrups. Mm-hmm. Once the pain started or the contraction started coming, I birthed my babies that way. Mm-hmm. I was very, by the 4th child, I wasn't a fun person to be around at the hospital.
Why?
Because one of the things I felt as if it was treated as a medical problem. Mm. And I didn't believe that having a child was a medical condition that required all of the attention with the IVs in the arm, the monitors on, taking the blood. It was not a relaxing environment because someone's constantly coming in. And that created a level of nervousness and anxiety in me. Like, is something wrong with me or something going wrong? So it was a constant thing with that. So by the time I was on number 4 and I wanted my baby with me in the room, I didn't want my baby to be in the nursery. I didn't want anybody in the room. I didn't want IV stuck in my arm. I didn't want blood to be drawn. I wanted to be left alone with my baby. So my husband got to a point, he said that you need to calm down. He said, you need to be nice. But what made it for me to be like, I'm done, was I was ready to go home with my number 4. We were checked out the hospital, had the baby, went through that experience. I didn't like my water being broken with some kind of
right. They have a
wooden stick.
Right. Yes.
Didn't like that feeling.
Yes.
Anyway, we gave birth, came home with my number 4. Everything went basically smooth with every child in the traditional sense. But they were checking me out of the hospital and they said I couldn't have my baby right then. And I didn't understand why.
Wow.
I said, why not? Well, you're checked out, but your baby's not checked out. I said, I want my baby.
Wow.
I want to go home and I want my baby. And it took about 3 to 4 hours before I can get my child. And I didn't like that feeling. So when I had a friend who was sharing with me her birth experiences through Homebirths. And at that time, of course, I'd already been homeschooling. So, I'm just in this non-traditional realm by then.
It's open. Yeah.
So it was as if, okay, she was like, you should birth your children. It's a wonderful experience. I know a midwife. You should call her.
And you were birthing in Indiana.
Yes.
You're in Texas right now, but did all of your births occur in Indiana?
All of my births occurred in Indiana.
Okay.
So I moved to Texas when my youngest was 2. He's now 6.
Okay.
So when I conceived our number 5, the thought was in my subconscious at that time. I kept thinking about what's this home birthing thing? Should I consider it? I went to my husband. We talked about it. Should I consider it? Hey, if you want to try, my husband's like, you want to? That's up to you. So I called the midwife, went to her home. It was just coming into her home birthing office was a different feeling for me. It was peaceful. It was in her home. She was very knowledgeable. just opened up my eyes to my body, how my body works. That it's not a medical emergency when you're giving birth to a baby. It's a natural occurrence that has been occurring for eons, and you need to learn your body. It was exciting. I was just excited.
What year was this? What year did you?
This was the year 2002.
Okay.
And so, you know, she said, I do everything. You can have your appointments. She told me what vitamins and nutrients, which it was unique because she said red raspberry and alfalfa and all these. And I'm like, what's that? I had never heard of it. But I was just so into it. You know, she could have told me anything because I was so excited. So went through all the process. I had to prepare my birthing kit. So I had to get all the necessary items to prepare for the birth. So I had to get the various things that I needed. If it was, you know, towels, or if it was, I can't even remember all the things. She said, get golden seal for the baby's navel and all. And it was just, all of it was just so new and just refreshing and exciting. It didn't matter what she told me to do. So I had everything together and I was real excited. So once I went into labor, fast forwarding, she was at another birth that day. And so it came down to me. She was saying, okay, I'm at another birth. I don't know how long it's going to be. And I was in tears because I had planned this moment. And I was so stubborn at that time in my life. My husband was like, okay, what we're going to do, we can go to the hospital. She was like, well, you can go to the hospital, or you can wait on me, or I can walk your husband through it. And so I looked at him and he looked at me and I said, you getting ready to birth your baby, because I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not going.
Go ahead, D.
And so she said, okay, you can get this, everything sterile. You get the scissors to cut the cord. You're going to get everything laid out on the bed. You're going to, if she wants her candles, you have her juice, everything, have it all set up, and I'll walk you through it if this baby is ready. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness. I actually said yes, and my husband, but he's going to birth this baby. Well, long story short, my son named Daniel, he did not come before she got there. And when she got there, of course, I birthed him. She weighed him after he was born, but prior to that, I never experienced where you wait on the cord to stop pulsating.
Yeah.
Before you cut the cord. That was an interesting experience for me, because in the hospital, the baby's born, they cut the cord, boom, the baby's somewhere else, and you're trying to birth the placenta.
So that whole delayed cord clamping and all of that, that was noticeably different for you.
It was very different. Laying the baby on my chest, which I do appreciate the former doctors I had. They were promoters of nursing my baby.
Yeah.
They always let me allow the baby, even the male doctors, to latch on to me, which is rare, but they were really big on nursing. So at that time, so I was happy to have them. So I birthed 3 children at home. So my number 5, my number 6, number 7 were birthed at home.
So tell me, when you compared the first 4 and then you got to the other, what were those experiences like when you said already, you say, okay, you didn't know anything about it. It was all new. When you were at home with your baby and the midwife left and you're actually at home with your baby and you're not getting checked out of something and this and that, what did that feel like for you?
It was,
because you had 4 other kids at home the first time. So it's like, the hospital, you're away from everything, you're, whatever, but now they're all right there, or maybe not, or whatever. It's like, it's at home. What was that like?
Well, I enjoyed it. Number one, I enjoyed being able to, because I had a friend, the same friend that introduced me to the midwife was there for the birth. Nice. So she had the little ones in their area, and I had DeAndre there, and my I don't think my baby sister was at this birth, but I know my number 6 birth, my baby sister and my daughter were there in the room to experience it, and my midwife encouraged it. My family thought it was the most crazy, and I shouldn't do it.
And why? What was from what you understood? What was their train of thought? What made it feel like, okay, this is not a good idea to have?
Well, I guess not being comfortable with their bodies, or someone seeing this happen, and it's looking as if you exposed. Your body is. Everybody can see what's going on, and those are your private parts. I don't know what they thought, but it was a thing of they thought that she was too young, that she should not be in the room, that it was just totally out of order.
And so, how old is she now? 20?
She's 21. 21.
Mm-hmm. For you, in your mind, well, the first question is, did it take adjustment for you to say, okay, I'll allow her in the room? And second, do you feel like her being in the room, do you feel like that did something for her understanding of her body as she grew? She's 21 now. So do you notice, for example, maybe differences in the way things are discussed with her? Does she remember it? What any parts of what she saw when she was younger? Did you ever discuss it or anything like that?
It's funny you would say that because we haven't discussed it. I don't remember the discussions. I had to be honest with you. When babies are coming back to back like they were with me, I went from pregnant to giving birth to nursing, homeschooling, pregnant, giving birth, nursing, homeschooling. It was just so much. And I'm glad you said that, because I think it will be a great opportunity for us now to talk about it again after all these years. Because that particular child is 16 now.
Yes.
So.
It's so hard to believe he's 16.
Yeah.
So when would you say that as she grew up, that in your mind that you approached her feminine body, because she was the only girl for many years?
She was.
Do you feel like you approached her body in a different way than maybe things were discussed with you, having had babies at home, having had her see birth? Do you feel that it was different than what you recalled? That different mindset?
I would say that maybe she's more comfortable when it comes to birthing children. I'm glad it didn't scare her that said she would never have children. So she doesn't, most of the time by now, to me, daughters or even sons, they'll start verbalizing whether or not they want children. And that's never been a situation with her. I think when she was younger, she said she would want to have a home birth, but I don't know how she feels about it now.
Yeah.
But she did say that when she was younger.
And so your 5, 6, and 7 were at home.
Yes.
How do they stand out as different to you in any particular way?
They do.
Okay, tell us about that.
So with numbers, my midwife would share with me a couple of things. One, she shared that she was Caucasian, European. Mm-hmm. She shared that she would love for women of color to have more home births.
And why did she say that?
Because she said women of color have a higher tolerance of pain. Women with higher melanin have an even higher tolerance of pain, and they do so well giving birth at home.
Wow. You know what's okay, go ahead, finish what you were saying.
She said that trying to convince, when she meets women of color, trying to convince them of transitioning paradigm shift from the medical industry to home birth, she said it's so difficult. The percentage of Black women that birth children with her was very low.
Yeah, I always mention how, my family being from the South recently, many of us were from the South, but mine being, my mother being born in the South, so we were more connected to that. In the 50s and 60s and 40s, whatever. Just the whole notion it's amazing how quickly that paradigm was able to be shifted. And I think a lot of it comes from just, conditioning of what is normal. For some, not all, but for some Black people, the convenience is like, okay, great. Now I can have, the convenience of being in the hospital, and I can have the convenience of this and that. And then I find with many older people, they call it the old way of doing things. And so when I even speak to some women, they will say that there were things that the mothers or the grandmothers or aunts or whomever knew, and they just would never say anything about it because modernity and modern ways is presented as the right way. Yeah. But there are challenges that Black women are facing.
Yes.
And we are not faring very well in this system, totally disconnected from the strength of our past. I wanted to tell you what's really amazing about that is the context of Black women being able to have a higher tolerance of pain, amazingly, is the same thing that they use in hospitals to not give us pain medications, stuff like that they would give white women or other women. So it's really amazing. In hospital settings, you'll find that a Black woman that says that they're in pain, they're not believed as much.
Wow.
And so it's like this catch-22. It's like, okay, on one side of it, you can be like, Black women are, built for, they have this endurance quality. If you look at our historical context, we've endured a lot. But then you move that whole concept of endurance over into the hospital setting, and they're not believed when they say, oh, I'm in pain. It's like, well, if she's saying she's in pain, she must be lying. If she's saying she's in pain, she must be whatever, based on the same context. Wow. So, okay, so you said 5, 6, and 7. Mm-hmm. What happened after 5, 6, and 7? Because you have 10 children.
Well, 5, 6, and 7, I think they were the most beautiful experiences giving birth. Yeah. I would not trade it for anything. And I honestly would have had all of them at home if I would have known how of a serene and peaceful experience it was. And my midwife would always say, having birth at home is natural because you just continue to flow with the natural movement of things in life.
Exactly.
You don't have to uproot, get in the car, get your suitcase, go to the hospital, check in.
Exactly.
She said, you pregnant, you carry the baby. I come over and assist you. You're not delivering, you're giving birth. I'm not doing anything. She said, you're birthing your baby. You're doing the work, you and the baby. I'm not delivering it. She said, I want you to get delivery out of your vocabulary.
Yes. Yeah.
So the way, and she has passed since then. As a matter of fact, she passed away in 2007, I think. Wow. Because I was considering having my number 8 with her. And when I called, her husband said she had died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is that why you ended up going back to the hospital?
That and the pressing and pressure of my mom saying, you're too old now.
And how old were you at the time? Because people don't know all this fineness, honey. She looked like whenever people, like I had 10 babies, they's like, where? Yeah. So people won't look at you and see
I had my number 8 when I was about to be 40. So I turned 40 the year that she was born. I hope I have the date right. I turned 40, yeah. So then I had another one at 42, another one at 44. So that's how my baby's 6 and I'm 50.
Come on now.
Yeah. And so all of the things regarding, you're too old, 35, you're over the hill, it's dangerous. So when we conceived our number 8, my mom was like, please, DeLynn, do not do this again. Don't have a baby at home. You're getting older. Something happened. You get hemorrhage, all this stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe she's right. maybe I should go back to the hospital. And I reluctantly did it. Not really wanting to, but of course I didn't want my baby in danger. I didn't want a hemorrhage. I didn't want to be where I couldn't get medical care, although we always had a plan in place. So with my midwife, maybe people assume that midwives don't plan, but I had to put a birthing plan in place.
Yes.
And we had to follow the plan. So if something were to happen and I needed to go to the hospital, we need to know how many minutes the hospital was from my house. And could I get there in enough time or whatever? There are some situations where mothers, she said, they feel like it's natural. They feel like they didn't want any medical intervention. If that baby was born, that baby was dying, they wanted that baby to go peacefully because that was all to them. I guess in their spiritual place that was a natural progression of life. They didn't want anybody to interfere with that.
And that was at that particular hospital?
That was that particular midwife.
Midwife.
Sometimes people say, do I get uproot, the baby's, birthing and the birth canal, everything is going on and then something's happening, like maybe the cord is around the baby's neck. Do I get up, get in the car and go into the hospital? She said, because I've birthed many babies and took the umbilical cord from around their neck. I've birthed breech babies. I've birthed twins. She said, I've done probably more than most would say that could not be done without a C-section. So she eased me on that. So the first baby, she said, you probably don't trust me as much yet, but if you have another baby with me, your trust will be built with me. So the next baby, number 6, it was like a breeze. She came up. I went into labor, water broke. She got there. I think he was born like 2 hours later. I said, how did it happen so fast? She said, could you trust me now? So, so it's like, I don't want to let her go. So of course, fast forwarding, I had my number 7 baby. And then that was at home and with her as well. The number 8 found a female doctor. Okay. And the female doctor, she was all for water births. She had a birthing ball. She was, a hospital doctor. Mm-hmm. She was open to me getting what I wanted, so to speak. Said I didn't want to have oxytocin. What's that? Pitocin. I said, I don't want it. She said, why not? I said, because I had Pitocin with my first child and they gave me too much and the pain started coming too fast and it was miserable. I don't want it. She said, well, what if? I said, see, here we go. What if we do this? I said, I don't want it. So, there's a 12-hour window at the hospital.
There is.
So if you are not.
Think about the 12, that as a mom, what that looks like, because a lot of women don't know that there is a 12-hour window, that there is what did that feel like for you as a mom?
First of all, it puts you in a sense of you're tense. And my midwife, I have to go back to her because she is the one who enlightened me. She's the one who made me aware of my body, made me understand that it's natural. And she said, if you tell a woman, the moment they walk in the hospital, the clock starts ticking. If your water hasn't broken or you're not in active labor, then now it's declared a medical emergency and intervention must take place. What kind? Either drugs or a C-section. Something's got to happen to make this baby come. I experienced that. Even though I had my number 8 in the hospital, I could feel as if there had to be some movement. And I was hoping, I was like, oh, come on, baby. So I was talking to my baby. You need to come. You need to be born so nobody will bother us. You need to come out of here. And Harmony, my baby, she was turned a certain way. And I started feeling nervous. She said traverse or something, some kind of way that she was sitting and her head had to move back in her direction. And she had me on my hands and knees, rocking back and forth and things like that for that to occur, which I appreciate. And she let me birth her in the hospital the way I felt comfortable, whatever position. That was to me revolutionary. She said she's even argued with doctors because she wanted women to have more freedom. in the
Yeah.
hospital.
And this is your doctor.
It was my doctor who birthed my number 8.
8. Yeah. Okay.
So I have to fast forward because I know I had a lot of children, so I got a lot of stories. But anyway, got her in the hospital. She was born within 2 hours of me getting there. So no intervention. Nothing at all whatsoever, because I'm really like, I don't want any drugs. Don't give me nothing. I'm stubborn like that. I'm just unique. I don't want anything. So then when number 9, we can see number 9, I go back to her, the doctor, and she says, "Oh wow." We develop a rapport, and she said, "I'm leaving." I said, "Where you go?" I said, where you going?" I was like, "Oh no." I was like, "What am I gonna do?" And she said, "But I can give you a name for 2 midwives." She said they birthed in hospitals, but I can give you their name. She said, "But I'm leaving." She moved to Tanzania.
Wow.
To with her husband. They had a church. They moved to Tanzania to do medical work in Tanzania.
Wow.
Caucasian lady and her husband and their children. They moved. So I went on and gave a shot with the midwives. I did not like the fact that they told me when I first started having my appointments, if you're not progressing, we will use Pitocin. That's the first thing they told me.
Wow.
It will be used.
How did you respond to that?
I said, well, I want to be able to if I have to agree to use Pitocin, that the doses are monitored and you give me small doses at a time. And then when I feel the contractions coming, you stop it or I can stop it.
And what did you say?
She said, "That's fine." I said, "Well, thank you." So, I mean, I was one of these people that, sometimes people feel intimidated by medical doctors or intimidated by, people hold them in such high regard, which they do have a level of respect, but it's your body. Yeah. It's my baby. And I just had a thing about, you're not just going to push something on me.
Let me say something too, because you mentioned how you were stubborn and whatever, and you're just different. There are a lot of mothers that I talk to that are interested in what you're describing, this birth where it is, I want to, I don't want Pitocin. I don't want this. I don't want that. The difference, I think, is that you didn't just say it because you didn't just say, okay, this is not what I want. You were prepared for it. Some of that is because you had birth before, so you were dealing with previous experience. But I can't even say that necessarily because I know women, including myself, who hadn't necessarily had experiences before they were able to say, I want this or I don't want that or whatever. You were prepared to do the work of labor. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that if there's someone listening or watching, I just want to make sure you understand that you can say you don't want interventions. You can say you don't want this or that or the other. There are other things that go into that. It's not just, are you prepared to do the work? Are you preparing not just your body, but your heart and your mind to endure labor and to, are you prepared for that? But also, who's in the room with you? Are they comfortable with your discomfort? Do they have a capacity for the discomfort that you have? If they don't, they'll be the ones, the nurses or doctors can say, you might want to encourage her to get an epidural. Mm-hmm. You might want to encourage her to whatever. Do you know, does she want, you might want to talk to her about that. So it's your preparation. It's the people around you and how they're equipped along with the facility that you're in. Yes. So I love that though. When you said, I don't want this, you were prepared for the work that you have to put in to birth.
I was prepared to find another doctor that would work with me.
Yeah.
So when you say prepared, I wanted to see what type of relationship she was going to have with me, because I believe it's your positioning. I don't believe you have to be rude. You don't have to be nasty. and things of that nature. And you do need support around you. My husband was there with me for every child except for number 10. He was in Tuskegee with my daughter, taking her to a camp. So he missed number 10. But I don't know what I can attribute it to, other than it was my position, my attitude towards, my willingness to compromise with them, not to just straight out reject everything. I say, if I have to have Pitocin, can you give it to me in small doses? I believe I learned that from my midwife. I can't remember, but someone said I think my doctor who left him with the Tanzania said, I'll give it to you in small doses and you could tell me when to stop.
Now that I'm going to tell you the truth. This is honestly the first time I'm ever hearing that. So I'm going to be honest with you. I have never heard that, but I think that that's worth other women considering. I birthed 2 of my children through induction, and never, and even when I've been in, as a doula for people, I've never seen. So those of y'all who are watching or listening, consider it, see what, never heard them act as if all I know is they come in, click, 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 click. How are you feeling? Are you feeling that? Click, click. It's just a click, 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 click,
Yeah. And so I consider myself really privileged to, even after the home births, to have the midwives, even though they had that 12-hour window, they worked with me. And when I said, I feel the contractions coming. Can you cut it off now? So I said, can you cut it off?
Did they do it?
Yeah.
What?
They did it. They cut it off. And I'm like, I don't need any more.
Wait a minute.
Because I know my body. And I
know that, girl. I have never heard. Yes.
I said it's too painful.
You're gonna make me write a Facebook post.
I kid you not.
I need to ask who else is out here asking the people to turn it off when they start feeling it.
Well, see, the thing of it is, I personally feel there's a fear of doctors. When we sit in the room with them, we act and yes, they've gone to school, they spent the money, they went through the residency, they did all these things. I understand that. And I always say, I highly respect you and everything you've done. But I've had experiences with having children, and it's just some things I prefer. Because even when I get in the hospital, they put the monitor on me, and I don't like to hear the baby's heartbeat real loud. That makes me nervous. I said, can you turn that down, please?
You better be in there, DeLynn.
I don't care. This was makes me peaceful. So if I'm not at peace with having this baby, I understand from my mentor and my midwife that this creates a level of anxiety, which can in turn create a level of intent of issues with the fear that you're imparting into the baby, which can cause you to go into this medical condition you have to go into. So if I don't want to hear my baby's heartbeat right now, it needs to be low.
It is so wonderful that you said that, because there are so many things in the environment that's contributing to these feelings of these situations that become medical emergencies.
Yes.
There are things that are happening in the women's body. And I love that you pointed out, I don't want to hear that. Can you, turn that down? That you allowed yourself to be empowered even in that medical space, because, oh my goodness, that is so rare. And that's one of the things that, along with changing legislation about things, along with changing other things, one of my focuses is us empowering ourselves, remembering who we are, remembering, like taking that in, and not just in mouth service, not just like, you can't da-da-da-da-da, but really, really, really not totally giving away your personal power when you enter a space.
Yes.
Understanding what you maintain and what you don't. We can sit here and say, well, they can't make you do that thing right there unless you want to. That's not how it feels when you're in there and you're the mom and you're surrounded by someone who's like, I don't know what to do. That's not how it feels.
Yes.
You understand? So you have to position yourself to walk in a space. You have to, maintain, I need a minute. Give me a minute. Well, you need to we need right now. Okay. Can you come back in 10 minutes? I tell women, I said, if they can come back in 10 minutes, it's not a true medical emergency.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, there's so many things that because we have taken in the medical society in a certain way, we do hold it in a high regard, which I believe we should, but I also think we kind of give all of our whatever away.
Yes.
And I love just hearing, I love how you're describing how you were in the hospital, you went home, and now you're back in there, but you didn't forget everything you had learned before you got there.
Yes.
So that was number 9.
That was number 9. And then number 10, I had another midwife. I had 2 different midwives.
Wait, before that, number 9. So with the birth thing, you're with certified nurse midwives, CNM, because they're the ones that can birth and help mothers birth in the hospital.
Yes.
How was that birth compared to the CPM that you had at home? Were there any things that you appreciated more? Were there any things that were similar? Were there any things that were different? Besides them saying, we're going to put you on Pitocin, blah, 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 blah. That's probably a difference, but what other differences?
Well, I had a dream, or I guess a fantasy of having a water birth.
Yeah.
And so the midwife was like, that's fine. If you want to have water births, I've done those. So they had the tub in the hot tub in the room, and they filled it up, and I get in there and everything, and I'm ready to birth this baby, and warm water did nothing but stop my labor.
Yeah, you told, yeah.
I felt nothing. I'm like, there's nothing going on. I don't even know. It's not time to push. I don't know if it is. It's not. I had dilated, to 9.
And then it just, the water for you.
The water relaxed me. So I'm in the water. She's waiting on me. DeAndre's there. She's there. She's ready. I mean, this is in the hospital, mind you. And I was shocked and happy that they were even willing to do a water birth in the hospital.
Yeah.
And so I said, I got to get out. I get it out. It's not working. She said, well, get out then. Whatever you want to do. It was always whatever you want.
So you still got that from the CNNs in the hospital.
Yes, I did.
What do you want to do? How do you want to move? Yeah. So there was the difference. There were some differences there, but did you feel the difference between having a doctor versus the midwife in general?
I did, because I knew I didn't have to be in stirrups, number 1. I knew that I asked, I don't have to get in stirrups, do I? Because I had the doctor who let me birth, the way I wanted to. And I shared that this medical doctor allowed that. And she said, I'll do the same thing. You want to be on your side, you want to be on all fours, you want to stand up, you want to stoop, whatever you want to do.
Beautiful.
We want you to be comfortable with how this, I'll be there to catch the baby, wherever you want to go.
I've actually been with midwives in the hospital where it's very similar still to
you mean
stirrups
and stuff like that?
It's like the first protocol is still to do the stirrups, even though these are midwives. So
to me, that takes away from the authenticity of being a midwife. To me,
yeah. I would agree with that, actually. I'm not saying if you use stirrups. I'm saying if that's your first protocol.
Yeah,
I think that there's something there that kind of got whatever the word that won't come to me, kind of got assimilated. It was assimilated a little bit into that a lot. Assimilated a little bit a lot.
Midwives, they go through a lot. It was shared with me about how they're not really embraced by medical doctors. They don't really truly care for them being there because they want to deviate from tradition.
In the hospital.
Comfortable with them. So I had Pitocin with my number 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the same
Did you have the midwives or a doctor?
Had a midwife in the hospital.
Okay.
And it was a different midwife. So the last 3 times were 3 different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her the same thing. This is what I'm asking about the Pitocin. I know you want to give it to me when I reach the hours in which I should have this baby. I look at him and tell him. And I guess my husband was like, oh, get her out of here.
She getting started, you know.
I said, however, if you need to do this, and I went back to my whole thing. I said, small doses at first. When I feel the contractions, you stop. That's all I ask. I said, I've had 10 children. I know how to have babies.
You better.
And if there's an emergency that requires a C-section, I want my baby to live. And I want to live. So I'm not going to jeopardize our health. But this Pitocin thing. And he's like, oh, get her out of there. I hope this is our last one, so she ain't got to go back to the hospital. But, because I had to already deal with the blood being drawn. I had to get the IV. I had to deal when you sticking me wrong, when you get me all swollen up. And I dealt with all that, so I had to go back to those things.
And how did he respond when you said that that's what was what you wanted? How did she? Yes, how did she respond?
She said, okay. She said, okay. I guess she said she's a strange one. Or maybe she's just standing her ground. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was I respected her. I just asked. It's just certain things I ask, and throughout the appointments, I will remind her. Now I know we shared. When we shared about the Pitocin. Yes, I remember, DeLynn. Thank you. So when I get you know
what? I know there must be millions of women all over the world that do. There are thousands of women that do this. It's just that I'm hearing it for the first time because I just love what you're saying. I can't wait to finish this. You're gonna see a post about this on. How many of you all?
But they're afraid. See, I don't judge a woman for going in and feeling as if the doctor knows everything. I think the breakthrough for me was having the experience of a home birth with the midwife that had me read books to learn about my body, had me talk to me about it, share videos. She educated me. So after her, as they say, I was messed up because I could not go back
to acting as if you didn't know.
Accepting everything you tell me because I broke out of that paradigm and I saw another way. And when you don't know another way, you think that's the only way and that's the best way. But home births to me are the best way. It's the best way. And if you have a plan in place where you know how far the hospital is, if you feel as if the comfort in knowing that you can go to the hospital can ease some of that. And when you trust your midwife, it eases that. If you have good support around you, it eases that. If you know that everyone around you is going to honor your wishes and desires, that all drops all the fear continues to drop.
I just love this so much. I love it because you have all of these experiences that I just love it. I know that the fact that you have been able to say, okay, this is what it was like before I knew anything. And then this is what it was like when I was at home. And then I didn't forget what I learned. I brought that over to when I went back to the hospital setting. I didn't go back as if I knew nothing. And that's really meaningful. That's another reason why I asked you about your daughter, because your oldest, the one who was at the home birth, she call herself Symphony now.
No, she doesn't want to.
Madame Yvonne. But my personal belief is that some of the confidence that comes that used to be able to help women birth when it was their time was because, and this is from me talking to my people and my relatives, okay, was because they had seen birth before it was their time to birth. They had heard the sounds of birth before it was their time to birth. It wasn't a new thing, or the first time that they had ever encountered, the birth setting. Now, maybe everybody's little one wasn't in there. I'm not saying they were. But what I am saying is that as that person would grow older, they would be there. So maybe if somebody says, oh, she's too young when she's 6, by the time number 8, 9, and 10 came, traditionally, us in the South, oh, she would have definitely been there.
Yes.
Yvonne, go get so-and-so for your mom.
And that's what she did. She was there. She was stronger than my sister, who had to leave out the room like she was going to pass out.
See, and I believe, my belief is that because we are not connected anymore. Now, I can't speak, I would say it for birth in general, with whether it was white women, other women, or whatever. But what I know is that, first of all, the system, the way it's set up, has been designed for a majority culture. We were not included into the majority culture until 50, 60 or whatever years ago. And some before, if their parents moved up north sooner or were at clinics and stuff like that. I think that what we're experiencing as far as Black women is largely due to the disconnect. I think it is more of a gift than you could ever imagine that your daughter has been able to experience birth. It is something that most women, and because I speak largely to Black women, most Black women will not experience until it's theirs. Now, more women are coming back into it, so maybe it'll be my friend, I'm a 21, 22, my friend is having a baby, and my this is having a baby. But what you have allowed your daughter to experience is like one of those old school gifts. That's one of those things where before she left the house, before she became an adult, she can reminisce and say, I remember what my mother sounded like. I remember that, whatever that sounded like. That, DeLynn, is a gift to her. That is my belief.
Well,
that is a gift.
That she has it in her mind, in her heart still. And I believe she does. It's memorable. It's hard to forget that you were there, and the midwife is saying, Yvonne, give me this, and Yvonne, give me the pajamas for the baby, and all the things that she was so involved.
I have friends who also have young ones that have been there. Maybe even if it's not to experience the actual birth, they were there to look at the placenta and see, this is how the baby got fed. Trust me, even if it's a memory that's not like the most whatever, my belief is that because we are these spiritual beings and we have these types of memories, that when she needs whatever she needs for whatever reason, those things will come back. And whether it's a vivid memory or whether it's just the energy that you were putting forth in your strength, that comes back. And she's a very strong, I can't say young lady no more. I can only say a strong, all of your girls, oh my God. But she's a very strong young woman, so very, very much. So I love that. Now, are there any things, so here you are, you've had 10 kids, and you said the 10th one, you had the Pitocin, but how was the rest of it? They turned it off. Did they turn it off when you asked?
They did.
The birth was
pretty, it was pretty good for the most part.
Okay.
I knew I was ready for him to be born. It wasn't extremely difficult.
Yeah.
I haven't had those type of experiences. Contractions are contractions and labor is labor. And I guess you expect to feel something.
You haven't fantasized. You haven't, what is that? The word is not fantasized. You haven't
reminisced?
No, like, what is the word when we make everything a fantasy? It's kind of like, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it's like you haven't made it like into a fantasy, like, oh, you didn't make it into like, oh, it's going to be lovely. It's be a couple of,
I knew it was going. I watched my mother when as a young girl be in labor, and she never could hold it together. She was so afraid. Every time she would go to the hospital I was there for it was 4 of us, the number 2 and number 3. I was around when she went into labor, and just her level of anxiety and fear was it was out of this world.
Wow.
And I'm surprised that that didn't pass on to me, or you know what I'm saying, because you see something and you mimic it, or you will believe you should be that way also. I wasn't like that. I don't know why. I just wasn't. And now as I look back, I'm wondering, why was she so afraid? She was afraid.
Maybe
she was put to sleep with me. They knocked you out in 1968. She was put to sleep. So
she got one of
having
those,
a baby.
Yeah, you told me you're one of the people. I tell people that my friend had her mother had one of those experiences with like the twilight sleep, where she didn't remember birth, and then she woke up and she had a baby.
And pulled me out with stirrups. And you can't help deliver the child when you're not awake and conscious of what's going on.
And maybe that was where some of her anxiety came from.
Yeah, maybe
that she experienced that, and it just there was no connection to what had actually happened. I mean, even saying it now, it makes me wonder if a lot of these, like this very
trauma,
a lot of trauma, this very spiritual sense of fear, like a tangible thing, if it hasn't been propagated by the way that over the past century the medical system dealt with birth, that it has contributed a lot to the fear.
I agree.
Yeah, that's just, wow. I never thought about that in that way. I mean, I know it's not a new thought, but I'm thinking about it in relationship to your mother. Yeah. So do you do anything in birth right now? I know at one point you were telling me you were thinking about getting into lactation.
Well, that's a whole nother story with the lactation.
Look, I'm not going to make you tell. I won't make you tell anything. I just,
the lactation industry has been, I would say, regulated in a sense. And I was considering being a lactation consultant because I nursed 8 out of 10 of my children, and I nursed all of them at least over a year. One of them, I think, almost 2 years, close to 2 years. But when I began to look into that industry, I realized that not many people of color were in the industry where I live in the DFW area.
Yeah.
And it's what they call, you have to be certified.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel welcome with this?
I did not. I found some meetup groups. I connected with a lady. I think I found her on a number on Facebook or somewhere, made a phone call. She said, you come to the meetup group, feel free to come. When I came in to the meetup group, most people didn't even acknowledge or speak to me. They looked as if I was lost. And the lady who invited, I said, I'm DeLynn. She said, oh, I met you. Have a seat, So they were talking to the lactation consultants who had looked like nurses with like their clipped on IDs on. And I'm thinking, lactation consultants have to look like, they have to, this is how it is. And I was so taken back by it, because your experience doesn't matter. A male medical doctor can become a licensed lactation consultant. And they have all the prerequisites, which says you don't have to take any prerequisites. I couldn't even find what the prerequisites were.
I remember.
I didn't know exactly what you had to do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what classes you had to take. I looked on the international whatever of nursing consultants or whatever, and there's no curriculum that's clear. And I really got discouraged, to be honest with you.
And I hated that, because one of the things that I consistently say, you know, when Black women are dying, and people are shouting that now, Black women are dying, Black women are dying. And there are times, just like with birth, that the safest place for a mother to birth will be in a hospital, or the safest way for a mother to birth will be by cesarean. I'm not taking anything away from that. There are also times when the safest place, or the safest person for a mother to speak to, is a certified person that knows what the issues of breastfeeding might be. Maybe there's some issue that the baby has, or that the mother has, whether it's, you know, challenges with inverted nipple, or a lip tongue tie, or something like that. There are times when those who know the intricacies of lactation are helpful. But if we are talking about just a mom and supporting her in lactation, I come from my historical context, and mine is the one where the women, and I asked the question. I had a 90 years old. She's the one that I've most recently spoken to. She's the oldest, last sibling of my grandmother. Well, what did y'all do with this? What did y'all do with this in birth? What did y'all do with that? Who helped you breastfeed? Yes, there was actually one where my Aunt Hattie said, well, I couldn't make milk for one of my aunts. And so that is a situation where 70 years ago, I lacked a certified this, that, who knew intricacies of things would have been so useful. But
or they gave you some concoction and made you.
Exactly. I don't know the details of everything, but she said, I just couldn't make milk for her. Now, she had 9 children. So let's be clear. I think she has 9. I could be wrong. But she had these children. So this wasn't like, oh, my first time breastfeeding, and I don't know what to do. You know, she said, my milk just did not come in for her, and whatever else. And so there's understanding the book knowledge, understanding the what modern technology and information can tell us is so useful.
Yes.
But when it comes to saying there are Black moms and Black babies who could use your support. And it was so disappointing to me that a mother of 10 who had been able to birth with intervention, without intervention, at home, in the hospital, whatever, that had been able to breastfeed 8 of her 10 children, was not received more readily, especially when Black women are facing so many challenges and you were pushed away from that. I'm venting. That's a problem for me.
Yes.
And in any scenario where that is happening, that is problematic.
It is.
Because this is a state of emergency for us.
It is.
So when I see, as you say, a 50-year-old woman who's like, I've had 10 children, let me help you. All it should be say, oh my goodness, well, they have this, but you know, I know you would be so.
It's nothing like that.
We're so glad you're here.
Nobody ever said those words. I never heard, we're so glad you're here. I never heard those.
Did she count the words?
I never heard them. Never.
And that is disappointing. And so to those that are listening or those that are watching, I would say to you that if you are one of those who says, oh, I'm an ally, or I want to help, or whatever else, you know, one thing that you could do, because it is our historical context, is not negate the experiences of Black women who have gone before, and recognize that even with the certifications that one person might have, that unless it's a scenario where that person actually needs a credentialed person to help with the challenge with lactation, that someone like DeLynn is an asset to what you're trying to do. So I just wanted to say that out of my mouth. And since I said that,
it was shared with me with the lady that invited me that it cost her a lot of money.
Exactly.
And a lot of time and a lot of coursework. And It's very hard.
Yes, it is.
Told me.
Yes, it is. Very. Yeah.
I said, oh, okay. She said, so it took me a lot of time. And a lot of money. I'm like, okay, you keep saying all that. I get you.
And like I said before, there's a place for the expertise that comes from book knowledge and study.
Yes.
There's also a place for those who have had one-on-one experience, who have had personal lived experiences. And people with people of African descent, we honor those who have gone before and have experiences in areas. We honor the eldership of other people, of those who have had experiences. So once again, I say, I get it. You know, both of us, you didn't even talk about all your education and stuff, but both of us have an appreciation for education, for formal education. However, when we look at everything that happens with birth and postpartum as something that must be paid for and certified, whether there are challenges that necessitate it or not, that is not in the best interest of African American, women of African descent, Black American, African women of the diaspora, whatever you want to call it, that's not in our best interest.
Yes.
If your first thing is, let me point you to a certification, you'll need this much money, and you're not at least looking at how that person can get involved, then you are not yet serving our highest good. Ooh, Sadria. Okay, so you didn't get involved with that. Tell us what you are doing. I know that you're writing a book.
Yes.
I know that, I mean, what are your degrees in, just so we know that?
Well, I have a bachelor's degree in personnel administration, which is currently known as human resources. The old school words were personnel administration when I came out of college in the early 90s. And then in 2013, I went back for my MBA. That was something I always wanted to do. Every time I do something, I'm always trying to incubate the situation, look for all scenarios. And it was said by the homeschool community, never, never, ever, ever try to get your master's degree or go back to school when you're homeschooling. Well, I said, I am, because I'm too old now to be trying to think about what's the right way to do things.
And what's your MBA in?
I have an MBA in sustainable business with a green development concentration. So sustainability. So sustainable housing. You can take sustainability and think of it in myriad of ways, but I'm more about sustainable parenting nowadays. So my book is talking about the milestones that I've crossed as a parent. Out of the traditional, I'm going the non-traditional, maybe the unpaved route of looking at it from a perspective of, as a parent, what do we learn? And I believe that as a parent, we're always in the seat of authority. We're teaching, we're training, we're guiding, we're leading, we're coaching, we're counseling, we're doing all these things. But as I reflect on my parenting from my oldest to now, I've learned so many things. So my book is talking about what I've learned, the milestones I've crossed. How have my children educated me? How did I grow up? Because while they're growing, I was growing. They had growing pains. I was having growing pains.
Yes.
And so my growing pains have, as I sat down to reflect on my parenting, I wrote about my growing pains and my growth and maturity as a parent. So the parent I was in 1991, I'm not the same parent in 2019. I've evolved in my parenting.
And shouldn't we all
have improved with my children? Yeah. Because I was willing to go through the process of change. So that's what it's about.
And we should all be in that situation where we're understanding that we are evolving, we are growing, and our children are teaching us. Our children show us.
They do.
You know, where we really are.
They really do, because they're very matter of fact. And the older my children became, the more I had to recognize and accept some of the things they were telling me. And that takes humility.
Yeah.
And so with that, it allowed me to grow. We make mistakes, we stumble, we fall, we don't do everything right. there is a place when, as a parent, to say, why should I do this? Because I told you so. There's a place for the words, because I told you so. There's a place for the time when you have to ask yourself, why did I say that?
Wow.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And we can parent out of, I would say, default. We can default on what our parents did. We can parent out of rebellion, say, I'm not going to do anything my parents did. But parent from a place where your relationships are sustained.
Good
So
stuff.
when your children leave, they want to come back because you have evolved as a mother. So it's coming.
It's coming. I'm so excited.
It's the editing process, and my launch, my publishing date, I'm set for August the 1st. I want it published, and by the time the children go back to school in the fall.
Well, good. And so this is what so I am positive that there might just be some women or some families or some people that might want to talk to you. I'm going to make sure that your information is available for them. I know that you're one of some of the people I talk to are already in birth culture, and they are just, I'm just like, hey, tell us your story. I still say in my heart, I wish that I could be like, this is the lactation consultant, blah, blah, blah person. And I believe that as time moves on, that whatever role you are to play in birth culture, you will be that, whether it's even just for your own kids or whatever. But is there a way that people can reach out to you if they want to reach out to you?
They can feel free to find me on Facebook. They could always instant message me. I respond to my messages. So they can look up DeLynn Hudson, DeLynn Hudson, Hudson. And if they send a message via LinkedIn, if they want to connect with me as well, they can send a message, say, I would like to connect with you, and a small message about they saw the interview. And I would definitely love to connect with women all over, to share and to encourage, inspire, whatever I can do.
I love that. And of course, I love you.
I love you too.
Yes, she was with us last week. We got to hang out. I was like, we should have done it live, DeLynn, because my husband and I were celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, and she was in town again, and we forgot to do it. So I love this. I appreciate you being willing to share so much with those who are listening, those who are watching. You all look for the information to contact DeLynn if you want. Look for it below. Thank you once again, my beautiful sister, for being willing to participate in this and to share your story and to allow me to help birth your story as a wonderful woman of African descent who, before it became popular and a fad, was following what she was feeling led to do. And I pray that others will do the same. Thank you, DeLynn.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mwah.